That worthless wife. Just discard her before we land in real trouble. As soon as they assumed I was asleep, my husband and his mother underwent a complete shift in their attitudes. Initially leaving home under the pretext of safeguarding their assets, they shamelessly returned, unleashing chaos. When I confronted them with reality, my name is Daisy, 30 years old, engaged to Brad after a 5-year courtship, living with his parents, the true nature of my husband and his mother became evident. Despite our initial agreement to purchase our own house after having our first child, almost 2 years had passed, and we were still residing with his parents. In this extended stay with my husband, his mother, and his younger brother, concerns about me surfaced among those around us. My parents lived at a considerable distance, requiring air travel, expressing regret that they couldn't provide assistance. Despite this, my relationship with my husband and mother-in-law remained strong, seemingly immune to the typical conflicts between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. I was content until one day, an accident left me hospitalized with a broken bone. Initially, my husband and mother-in-law visited daily, displaying genuine concern. However, their visits dwindled to once a week, and their attitude took a drastic turn. Overhearing a conversation they thought I was oblivious to, my husband and mother-in-law expressed disappointment in me. The accident had rendered me unable to perform household chores or contribute financially. In their eyes, I transformed from a wife to a burden, with the idea of having children becoming even more distant. Their conversation continued, dismissing the purpose of our marriage, claiming that I was meant to serve as a maid and caregiver. Frustrated by the inconvenience, they discussed the possibility of divorcing me. Unbeknownst to them, I heard it all while pretending to be asleep. From that point on, their demeanor towards me grew increasingly cold. My husband's visits became sporadic, and my mother-in-law's comments were laced with disdain. The only solace came from my brother-in-law, who continued to assist me with daily tasks and offered emotional support during my hospitalization. Although physical therapy was challenging, my brother-in-law's presence helped me persevere. Despite my progress, when I shared news of potential lingering issues with my husband and mother-in-law, they argued over my fate, blaming me for their troubles. In reality, I had been caring for my father-in-law for 5 years, a responsibility I undertook while dating my husband. Why don't you live together since you are both going to get married anyway? Yeah, it's a great idea. We can save money by living together and then get married when we're settled. When I hesitated, they reassured me, it's okay. We have plenty of rooms and we won't invade your privacy. Plus, you don't need to pay rent. You want to marry my son, right? How could I refuse? But in return, we have a favor to ask, Daisy. While you're working from home, can you look after our father, who needs care? It's only for 4 to 5 hours during the day when my mother is out for her part-time job. We also have my brother, so the two of you can work together. My brother-in-law was also working from home, so Yi and I teamed up to take care of my father-in-law in the house. My father-in-law and brother-in-law were very close. My father-in-law had a hobby of collecting furniture and even had a separate house just for it. My brother-in-law and I always enjoyed hearing about his hobby. My father-in-law loved his caring son, Regan. Eventually, my father-in-law's health began to decline, and after years of care, he passed away. After that, my husband proposed to me, saying, "Thank you for always taking care of my father. Let's continue to be together. Let's get married." Despite having worked hard on housework and caregiving, the moment I became immobile, my husband and mother-in-law's attitude towards me became as if I were worthless. Even I, normally composed, was infuriated. Force me, please pay what you're supposed to. Well, I don't want any trouble, so I'll give you the house. Let's waive the other division of property. I wondered if he would really give me the house, but since my father-in-law had left a substantial inheritance, it was divided among my mother-in-law, Brad, and Regan. The inheritance amounted to approximately $300,000 each, so he seemed to have enough assets. Regan was tasked with handling all paperwork, with the executor and had to visit the court several times, which was quite a hassle. No way we can't give away the house. If we divide the property, I'll lose half my savings. It's just a wastefully large house in the countryside. Even if we give it away, it's not an issue. Even at the highest estimate, it's only worth about $100,000, plus various fees will be deducted when we sell it. It's cheaper than losing half my savings. Well, if you say so, Brad. But what if she demands more later? What if rumors spread in the neighborhood because we abandoned her? The two debated what to do with me. Then I'll take her in, Reagan, Brad's brother, interrupted. Why would you go out of your way to do that? Ah, you've been interested in Daisy, haven't you? That's why you're so willing. You can have her if you want. But she's no longer of any use to us. Don't ask to take Daisy and the house back later, okay? Why would I? I just hope you won't come asking for money later. And remember, you can't return damaged goods. Brad and Reagan signed papers and arranged to formally change the property title through a lawyer. I'll take out some money for my savings. So why don't you find a younger, healthier, and prettier woman to marry and build a better house? Sounds good? Hey, Daisy, get a lawyer to file for our divorce quickly. They said they'd stay in a hotel for a while and left the room. Reagan and I silently saw them off. I had to find a lawyer to file for our divorce first. Reagan helped me to file for the divorce, and in a few days, Brad and I became complete strangers. A week later, Brad and my mother-in-law packed their belongings and left the house. It seemed peculiar that Reagan, Brad's brother, continued to visit me after I divorced his brother. When I expressed concern about him worrying about his former sister-in-law, he responded, "I'm doing this because I want to. I didn't get along with you just because you were my brother's wife. We both provided care and did housework together. We've talked a lot more in these 7 years than you ever did with my brother. We're friends, aren't we?" Reagan said with a gentle smile. All I could do was express my thanks and gratitude. A month later, I was discharged from the hospital. Although I had to continue visiting for physical therapy, being back home after such a prolonged absence was a relief. I couldn't help but wonder, do you think those two will really ever come back? I'm worried they might return and make me work again. If they come back, I'll drive them away. I can't forgive them for treating you so horribly. Plus, they have no right to return to this house, Reagan reassured. Despite still being unable to move as before, Reagan took care of most household chores. Fortunately, as a freelancer working from home, I was able to return to work and contribute financially. Thanks to bi-weekly physical therapy, my recovery proceeded smoothly without complications. A year later, I was able to resume a normal life, collaborating with Reagan on housework. We spent more time together, using our days off for trips. Just as I thought our peaceful days would continue, a storm suddenly hit. One night, while Reagan and I were having dinner, the door was knocked, and the intercom rang repeatedly. When I nervously answered, Brad appeared on the monitor. "Hey, open up. This isn't your home anymore. State your business and leave," I firmly said as I opened the door, surprised by Brad's unexpected arrival. "What do you want? Why do I have to put up with such an attitude just for coming home?" Brad said, entering without hesitation. "I'll be living here again from today. Oh, I'm hungry. Hey, Daisy, give me some food," he ordered, disregarding the changed dynamics. "Cut it out. Why are you here?" I asked, bewildered. Brad explained. "Well, I've spent almost all my money. My mom will be here soon too, so leave the door unlocked." Remaining silent, I heard him say, "Oh, you're all healed up, huh? That's great. Let's get back together. You must have had a hard time without me," as he persisted in his mistaken belief. He approached me with a disgusting familiarity, and the sheer audacity of his actions made me feel sick. "Stop it. I divorced you, and I don't care about you anymore. Don't get cocky. You've been living on my money all this time, and you can't do anything but housework." "Just shut up and do as I say," Brad shouted at me. Just then, the door opened, and his mother arrived, criticizing the unlocked door as careless. "What's going on?" She's been getting cheeky, so I was giving her a bit of education. She's grown thick-skinned in the year we've been away, Brad explained. Once again, Brad and his mother began to make themselves at home, acting as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I had had enough. This isn't your home. I'm calling the police. Oh yeah, about that. This house was originally in your father's name, right? So that means the heir, including my mother, makes our agreement null and void, doesn't it? Brad shouted, making an unreasonable claim. You promised to give me the house. If you're nullifying that, then everything about the division of property should be nullified as well. Give me half the savings. Sure, but I don't have it anymore. Didn't I tell you earlier? I've squandered it all. I quit my job, spent it all on booze, fun investments, you name it, Brad admitted, shocking me with the unbelievable revelation. I also have some debts with consumer finance, about $20,000. I guess you can pay for me, he continued. Initially, I thought he was lying, but his mother confirmed it. I can't lend you that much money. I'm not asking you to lend it. I'm telling you to pay it. I'm not giving you any money. I'm calling the police, I declared. As Reagan dialed the police to report the situation, Brad began wreaking havoc in the house, breaking the precious furniture that had been my father-in-law's keepsake. His mother joined in, destroying the furniture and laughing as she did so, something so terrible that it tarnished the memory of my father. About 10 minutes later, when the police arrived, I explained the situation to them. This is quite a mess. Let's hear your side of the story, one officer said. What's wrong with me breaking things in my own house? That's right. We're just crushing things we don't need. What's the problem? Brad argued, leaving the police unsure of how to respond. Reagan stepped in, clarifying that the house had never belonged to Brad and his mother. It was under my name. When the police seemed uncertain how to respond to this revelation, Reagan explained that our father-in-law had left a will, and the house was mine from the beginning. Brad and his mother stood dumbfounded. So this isn't your property then? The police asked. Hold on, but I'm her ex-husband. We're like family, so she'll forgive me, right? Brad pleaded. Don't make me laugh. You're a stranger. Once you're an ex, I don't even know you. You were in contact with another woman before our divorce was finalized and treated me like a maid. If not you, then who? I retorted. No, that's not what happened. I was just going along with what my mom said. She ordered me to do all this, Brad claimed. His mother confirmed that Brad had been trying to marry a young woman after our divorce, according to her information. He also quit his job to start his own business, but it failed within just a month. Despite having money, Brad was rejected by lenders and became reckless, engaging in irresponsible behavior such as playing and gambling, claiming he had money to spare. He admitted to having almost no money left, and it seemed that his financial situation was indeed dire. You brought this upon yourself. All this is Brad's fault, I asserted, despite their previous condescending attitudes towards me. They both desperately pleaded for forgiveness, attempting to shift the blame, but this was truly ridiculous. No, I won't forgive either of you. And this isn't something from the past, is it? You were treating me like a servant until a moment ago. Not leaving when I asked you to leave is illegal. And since the furniture collected by my late father-in-law is now mine, you'll need to compensate me for that. But all right, we will compensate you. Just please don't get the police involved. You wouldn't want me to go to jail, would you? They pleaded. Unmoved, I responded. I actually don't care at all. By the way, we're married. It turned out I was married to my former brother-in-law, Reagan. It hasn't even been a year, and you've moved on to another man, my own brother at that. What are you talking about? You moved on before you were even divorced, didn't you? You wouldn't return Daisy to me, no matter how many times I asked. Stop clinging to the past already. Brad was left speechless. I don't care anymore. I'll pay for whatever damages there are. How much for my idiot husband's junk? Well, if we calculate roughly, about $100,000. The furniture that my father-in-law had collected was all high-end pieces made by famous designers, I explained. Brad and his mother, who had no interest in these items, seemed to have believed they were just junk. You're going to compensate for what you've broken, right? We're not sure if we can get the same items, but make sure to pay properly. Unable to afford such compensation, Brad and his mother were distraught. For the time being, the police took the two of them away for trespassing and vandalism. Of course, I didn't forgive them and proceeded with the lawsuit. Afterwards, Brad and his mother, who were desperately seeking help from Regan, were bluntly rejected. Regan said, "I'm ashamed to even be related by blood." Brad and his mother were likely receiving their just desserts together. And there's one more thing I kept secret. My father-in-law told me to sell the house and use the money as I wish. Regan had told me that the price of the house was $100,000. But in reality, the document stated the value of the house was around $500,000. It's a good location, so it might sell for a bit more. But for now, Regan and I decided to take it easy in the house my father-in-law left us, with no plans to sell it. Eventually, we planned to sell the land and build a new house. I had some worries about having children, so after getting married to Regan, I went to the gynecologist for a checkup. But there were no issues with either Regan or me. Now, with the troublemakers gone, Regan and I are living